Hi, everyone. Welcome to our devotion for Friday, April 2nd. This is the day of the church year we call Good Friday. It's always been kind of an awkward name for the day that we remember Jesus dying on the cross as Good Friday. We remember this because it is for our good that Jesus died. It is for our salvation. It is to include us in his work and in God's work that Jesus died on the cross. And so we continue reading from Mark 15 for our devotion today. It says, Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, Truly this man was God's son. And that's where our reading ends for today. Again, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of details, a lot of little sentences that Mark writes here that are really entire stories. And it's up to us to pick up those images and those ideas, right? Again, like I said yesterday, at 3 o'clock, Jesus cries out with a loud voice that he feels abandoned by God when he in fact is God. So that God is always there in the places where we think God is not. And it's at that moment that God dies on the cross. And then we have this idea that the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. What is this? You may have heard this part of the story before. If not, let me tell you. So in the temple, the Jerusalem temple had several areas of kind of constricting sizes and constricting who could be there. So in the very, very middle of it was the Holy of Holies, the place where God was. And only one priest, one time a year, was allowed to go in there. The chief priest for that year was allowed to go into the Holy of Holies one day out of the whole year. Around that is this area for the priests to do their work, and only the priests were allowed there. Separating those was this partition wall. The best word that the Greek provided for Mark here was curtain. This little partitioning wall that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the work of the priests. And then around that was the space for the Jewish men, and then around that was a space for everyone else. And so the idea that at Jesus' death, this curtain, this wall that in some ways kept people away from God, but also kept God kind of safely locked away from us, right? We knew where God was and we just didn't have to bother. That is now ripped apart from top to bottom, so completely, not like just cracked a little here and there, but just completely torn asunder. Is that God is free. God is loose. God is on the loose, people. God is free, and God is out hunting for you, right? In Jesus' death, this action of God giving up all of this, part of this package deal is that now God is on the loose in the world. God is no longer restricted to one time, one place, one area, one person access. God is freely accessible. God is everywhere and always, even, especially like I said yesterday, the places where we think God is not. And then we have the story of the centurion who is standing there watching over the people who are crucified. And notice the centurion is the one who recognizes Jesus as God's son. Mark told us that at the very beginning. The only other times that we have been revealed, that it has been revealed who Jesus is, has been in the evil forces that Jesus casts out. Right? Even Peter at one point says that Jesus is the Messiah, but never confesses that Jesus must be God's son. It's only very beginning of Mark's gospel, and then here at the very end, the centurion, the Roman soldier who was part of the detail that crucified him, that was watching over him, that was keeping all of the other people away so they couldn't try and take him down. We're told in one of the Gospels, took a spear and pierced his side so that he would die quicker, that heard his loud cry and his confession of feeling abandoned by God. And seeing all of that reveals that Jesus was God's son. That's how we know who God is. This is who God is. None of those other stories that you think define God or explain how God works in the world, none of the rest of those are true. Or if they're true, they're only partially true. They're symbolically true. They might be true. This, God dying on the cross, is who God really is for you and for me. God is giving up in order that you and me would have new life. Let's close with our prayer. Jesus, may your passion and death be our strength and life. Lift us into love for everything you are and all you do. Amen. And God bless you today.